Right, I think we're live. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me, or good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Yeah, monthly live Q&A with no chat on screen. Why is the chat not there? Hopefully the chat will turn up in a minute. I'm using the same layout as I did last time, but no chat is coming up on screen. Ah, I know why. There you go. The chat is now up on screen. It's because I've got... Oh, there we go. Anyway, the chat is up on screen. Monthly live Q&A. Do these once a month. A lot of you in the chat have seen lots of these before, so you know what's going to happen. I've posted a question on my Board Game Geek Guild for questions in advance. I'm going to be going through all of those questions that I've been asked in advance first, and then we're going to be going over to the live chat. So if you are watching this live and you do have any questions for me, please hang fire with those questions for now. If you're going to be here for about another half an hour or so, at least, then hang fire with your questions for now, and I will come to the live chat later on. If you can't hang around and you have any questions for me, put them in the chat, but put the word question. Put question in capital letters first, and Vicky will see those and she'll transfer them to the Google Doc. Now, unfortunately, we have a bright blue chosen for the colour, so bear with us a minute. I can do something about that. I'm going to change the background. Now, which background is it? Chat background. That's the one. I'm going to change that, and I am going to make it darker. If I go color correction, here we go, live editing. If I drop that down, so it's darker, that doesn't look very good, does it? Drop the gamma down, drop the contrast down. There you go. Is that a bit better? Oh, it looks a bit rubbish, doesn't it? It's because the chat plugin that I'm using picks a random color, and it's chosen light blue. So it's a bit difficult to see. But anyway, there we go. Yes, have had a haircut. Actual hairdresser. I waited way too long, but I wanted to wait for the rush to die down before I got a haircut. So yeah, had a haircut. Right, anyway. Before we start, a big thank you to all of my Patreon supporters. A lot of you who are watching this in the chat are Patreon supporters of mine, so thank you very much. It's your support that makes these videos possible. If you are watching this either live or afterwards, and you do want to support the channel and help make me continue to make videos, the link is in the bottom right, patreon.com/gaming rules. I'm also going to be doing a £25 giveaway contest during the live Q&A. I'll talk about that in a minute. Right, so let's head on over to questions that I've been asked in advance. Where are they? Have I closed the document down? I probably have. Is it there? Yeah, I've closed the document down. Right, okay, let's open up the document again. You've got it on screen. We've got a cat as well. Loki's just joined us. Live Q&A questions. Right, here we go. The first question that I've been asked, let me just put that there so that I can see that, and let me put that there so I can see that. Right, okay, the first question that I've been asked is, hello Loki, is from Sir Martin, and he's saying, because I've been playing a lot of Too Many Bones recently, and he's saying, what is your favourite gear lock? I think it's still too soon for me to tell. Now, I've been playing the game, I've played the game, what, 8 times now over the last couple of months? 3 months in fact, and it's still too early for me to tell. I played Patches a couple of times, I played Boomer 3 times, and then I've played Tantrum twice. So I haven't yet played whatever the 4th character is from the base set, and I like all of them for different reasons. Tantrum is very much not my kind of character, but I have enjoyed playing it for something a bit different. I did like Patches because I feel like I'm more of a support character and healing other people, although Patches solo was interesting. And I did like Boomer as well for different reasons. So yeah, I don't have a favourite one. I think if you come back maybe in a year's time, or maybe even 2 years' time, by which point I will have played Too Many Bones about another 15 times, I might then have an answer. I mean, I do want to play the one that Scott and Rick played, Nugget, I think it is, with the longsword that throws, a bit of a ranged character. So yeah, that's probably one that I'm looking forward to playing. But yeah, too early to tell. Second question is, do I plan to get a copy of Burn Cycle? The answer is yes. So I was actually due to get a copy of Burn Cycle, a review copy of Burn Cycle. In other words, Chip Theory Games would be sending me a copy of it because I will be covering it on the channel. I will definitely be covering it on the channel when it comes out. There will be some playthrough videos and everything else. However, in the last couple of months, I've actually signed an agreement with Chip Theory Games that I'm helping them with the rulebook for Burn Cycle. And I signed a contract, And in that contract, it says that I will be eligible to get a copy of Burn Cycle as part of my work on the project. So I don't know if that means I'm going to get 2 copies of Burn Cycle. If it does, I'll give one of them away. So watch this space. So yeah, I'm definitely getting a copy of Burn Cycle. I think you're probably asking, would I get a copy of Burn Cycle if I wasn't going to be professionally involved? And the answer is yes. Because Too Many Bones, Cloudspire, yeah, very, very good games, and definitely would get that one. Right, next question is from Rob Bob, who asked a very good question last month. This is also another very good question. This is also a question I'd like to put to the chat. So let me know what you think in the chat. Would you rather lose a game by 1 point, or would you rather win but sharing the victory with somebody else? Now, I have my own opinions on tiebreakers, which can be not popular. I know over the last 5 or 6 years or so, there has been definite movement to making games friendlier and more open. And what's wrong with a friendly tiebreaker? Okay, what's wrong with more than one player winning the game? Now, personally, I have played a lot of tournament games, both collectible card game tournaments, but also board game tournaments, and I've run board game tournaments. Now, that's not to say that I'm a super ultra competitive player. I'm not. I play for fun, but I have also, as I say, taken part in and run tournaments. And in tournaments, friendly ties, it messes up the point system. So I've been a big believer that every game should have tiebreakers. And that's not because I want to win, and it's not because I think every game should be ultra competitive. I just think there should be tiebreakers in games. So I think when it says, oh, if it's a tie, both players win, I'm not a big fan of that. Would I rather lose a game by a single point or win a shared tied victory? Well, I think I would probably like to win a shared tied victory more than losing by a point, because then I've still won. But Rob goes into an example, and he said he was playing Wingspan and he rolled some dice to go hunting and wasn't successful, and he lost the game by a point. And if the dice had come up successful, he would have actually tied for the victory. Now, that's a good example, because that actually opens up a whole other area, which is when a game comes down to a dice roll at the end to see whether you win or lost. In that case, Rob, if I was you, 10 years ago, I would have got annoyed. So 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I would have rolled that dice, and then I would have grumbled and complained that I only lost the game because of a dice roll. Stupid dice, throw it out the window. I'm a little bit more mellow now. And if I got to that point in the game, and we all knew it's like, oh, if I hunt successfully, I'm going to get a tied victory. And if I don't, then I've lost the game by a point. We all know that going into the dice roll, we make the dice roll, and it kind of doesn't really matter at that point, because it's out of my control. But anyway, yes. So Scott is saying that he prefers to win, even if it's shared. Peter is saying it doesn't matter so long as it was a good game. That is a very good point, because and if you've been watching some of my live multiplayer streams for the last couple of years, you will know that in some of them I do terribly, and I lose, and I do really, really badly. I still enjoy the game. Okay, I have no problem with coming last in a game. It's not to say I don't play to win. I do, but if I don't win, it doesn't bother me. Sean is saying the older he gets, the less he cares about whether he wins. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's just old age. Maybe it's that. Neil is saying that he would prefer to lose by 1 point. That's really interesting, Neil. And I don't know why, and I'd like to try and understand. So let's have a chat offline about that. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just trying to work out why you'd prefer to lose than a point than having a shared victory. Maybe you don't feel that a shared victory is a true victory. I'm not sure. Anyway, good question. Good question. Next question is from One Too Many, who forgot to ask it in the last live Q&A. So this is a question from a month ago, and it's about Pavlov's House. Now, Pavlov's House, for those people who don't know, is a World War II themed skirmish game by David Thompson, published by DVG, and I have covered it on the channel a few times, and I've covered the digital version, and I've covered the physical version. The question is, in my opinion, which is better? Now, there are advantages to both. There are advantages to the digital version because the implementation is really good and it has the rules right. There's been a few patch updates to the game since it came out. It's only been out like 2 months. And it's quicker, okay? So you can play a game of Pavlov's House quicker using the digital version, and it does a lot of the admin for you, okay? there is that advantages. But like many people I know and watching this, you like the tactile feeling of moving pieces around. So for me, I would always prefer to play the physical game, even though it's a solo game, and therefore there's no real difference, but I just like the physicalness of it and you can see things. As I say, the digital implementation is really good. If the digital implementation wasn't good, then I would lean 100% towards the board game. But, you know, for example, if I really wanted at 10 o'clock tonight, I think, oh, I fancy a game of Pavlov's House, I will play the digital version. That's not to say that I prefer the digital version, it's just, it's there, click, and it's running. So, yeah. Right, next question is in from Brian. And he says, maybe I can't answer this because of NDAs. Well, I've actually sent this question to the publisher this afternoon and asked them if I'm allowed to answer it. And they didn't say no. So the question from Brian is, how much input or creative license will I have with the Burn Cycle rulebook? So as mentioned earlier on, Chip Theory Games have contacted me and asked for my help with the Burn Cycle rulebook. Now, they haven't given me full editorial, there it is, Paul, it's yours, we don't want to see it again and we want you to give us back a finished rulebook. I'm involved in the process of helping with that rulebook. So it's not going to be completely me. I am going to be doing as much as I can on it. But Brian makes a point that Chip Theory Games rulebooks have been a bit of a weakness across their offerings in the past. And he's looking forward to seeing what I can do with the Burn Cycle rulebook. Now, to be fair, I absolutely agree. And I have gone on record and I've said the rulebook for Too Many Bones is really not very good. I found Cloudspire version 1 okay. I know a lot of people had issues with it, but I found it okay. I felt the structure was bad, but the actual rules content was good. But Chip Theory Games have just released version 2 of the Cloudspire rulebook, which is a massive step forward. So what's been happening at Chip Theory Games? Let's forget my involvement with Burn Cycle for the moment. Chip Theory Games have actually been putting a lot of effort into making their rulebooks better. They've been doing that anyway, but then alongside that, they contacted me at Burn Cycle. Now, when they first gave me the Burn Cycle rulebook, I started adding hundreds of comments, like little small comments, but also big comments. I don't think this bit should be here. This bit's confusing. I think this would be better here. I added loads and loads and loads of comments because, as I mentioned, they weren't giving me full editorial control of the rulebook. They were just asking for my input and assistance. So I spent a couple of days going through the rulebook, adding all of these comments all over it. And then Shannon from Chip Theory Games contacted me and said, Paul, just so it's clear, you have full editorial control here. You don't have to add the comments. Just do what you want with it. And I was like, oh, okay, right. So I then spent the next few hours going through it again, resolving all of my comments and actually making the changes. So having said they haven't given me full editorial control, actually they have right now. But at some point, my hours limit that I'm working to for them is going to run out and then I'm going to pass it back to them. But right now, they have given me full editorial control both on the actual wording of the text, but also the structure of the rulebook, which I have massively changed since they first sent it to me. And I'm going to be working on it again more next week. And it's good. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Right. Brian also asks, on a biscuit-related note, following on from last month's discussion, have I tried Tunnock's caramel logs? No. But let me tell you a story. Because, did we Google it? Yeah. So last month's live Q&A, the topic of Tunnock's caramel logs came up. And we were like, I don't know what they are. We know Tunnock's caramel wafers, but we haven't tried Tunnock's caramel logs. So we Googled it to find out what they were. And since then, we now get adverts on our, is it Facebook? We now get Amazon emails recommending us Tunnock's caramel logs and Tunnock's caramel wafers. So no, we haven't tried them yet, but we are getting bombarded with messages telling us that we need to try them. Okay, right. Next question is from Rob again. What are some of your favourite house rules or fun variants you have used or consistently use in games? He's actually got 2 questions. That's the first one. Now, one of the things on my list of things to do that's been there for 18 months is to start a thread on my guild, on Board Game Geek, of my house rules for games. And I haven't done it, and I keep meaning to do it. And hopefully next month I will have time in my schedule to do it. So I do have a lot of house rules for games. Some of them are very controversial. I've received a number of hate messages from people who say, you are insulting the designer, you are not a real gamer, you must play by the written letter of the rules, otherwise you should sell the game and move it. Literally, the amount of, the amount of, hatred's probably the wrong word, but the amount of anger that comes from some people when you're mentioning that you're using a house rule, even when it's not their game, it's crazy. My opinion on house rules is it's your game, right? It's your game, it's your house. You do what you want with it. But I also have known where people have brought in house rules and it's actually destroyed the game. I mean, really destroyed the game. Oh, we don't like that rule there where you get 5 points if you do that. So we just say that that's not worth any points. Oh, right. So basically you're saying don't do that. So a part of the game you're telling me not to do that because you felt it was overpowered, so you've actually said it's not worth it. It's like sometimes house rules can go too far. My house rules, and I would say this, in my opinion, don't do that. But yeah, I've got quite a few of them. One of the most recent ones, is it a most recent one? Well, let's take one of my very old ones, Power Grid. Now, I've played Power Grid, the original game of Power Grid, 30, 40 times. I've played it a lot, maybe even more, because I played it a lot online as well. So I've probably played it maybe 60, 70 times. And Power Grid is a great game. And the market system in Power Grid is fantastic. But I ended up in a lot of games that I was playing, right down at the very, very end of the game, is like, oh, okay, so there's a power plant in the market that we're bidding for. And if the next one that comes out is a 7, then whoever gets it wins. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've been in this situation, but I've been in this situation a number of times, not just once, a number of times. And I personally, I don't like making decisions without having a bit more information. So what I do in Power Grid is I play with the top card of the market deck face up, right? It's not in the market, but you know what the top card of the deck is, so that you know what card is coming next. And that allows both me and everybody else playing the game to make a more informed decision about whether they're going to bid for it. Because as I say, Power Grid's a great game, but when you've been playing it for 3 hours and it's heavy on the maths and it's really concentrating, and then literally the last turn of the game, you buy a power plant and the next one gets turned over and it's a 7 and the other player buys it and wins the game. And that's it. And you're like, oh, and it's a bit like the Wingspan example of rolling the dice at the end of the game. It just feels a bit... Anyway, so that's one of them. That's one of my house rules. Yes, Paul's most OP house rules, you get bonus points for the amount of Jaffa cakes eaten. No, that's actually wrong, Andrew. It's the most number... you get bonus points for the amount of Jaffa cakes donated to Gaming Rules headquarters. That gets you the points. And it is a little bit broken. Right. Next question is one that's going to be asked on the guild. So Vicky's going to post a link to the Board Game Geek guild now. If you are not a member of the guild, please join up. It's guild number 2258 on Board Game Geek. And if you, once you've joined, make sure you hit the subscribe button, because otherwise you won't see anything from the guild. The guild's not very busy. And if you are on the guild, you are welcome to use it. This is an open invitation. If you've got any questions you want to ask anybody, me or anybody else, you can post them to the guild. I would like to get more traffic on the guild if possible. There's not much traffic on there. But this is a question which I'm going to post to the guild, so you can all take part in this. Because he said, if you're not a fan of a sports team, you can disregard the question. Now, although both me and Vicky follow Formula 1, we're not really sports fans as such. I'll watch Wimbledon when it's on, but other than that, not much. So the question is, which fictional character would you want as part of your favourite sports team ambassador? Simply put, a character used in promotional material, merchandise, and potentially using the character in the game stroke show, and they wear a hat or jersey of your team. The focus is to get kids attracted to the teams and interested, for example, because Pikachu is a Kansas City Royals ambassador. Or Darth Vader is a Man United ambassador, for example. Is he? I didn't realise that. But anyway, yes. So which fictional character, and again, I'm going to post this on the guild. You can answer it in the chat now if you want to. But I will post it as a question either later on tonight or tomorrow. So yeah, there you go. Right, next question is in from Patrick. Games that almost require the same group to play multiple times really shine. Which ones come to mind? Now, I've played a few. I mean, I've played through the whole of Pandemic Legacy Season 1 with the same group of players. We've played a lot of Gloomhaven with the same group of players. We've played Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion with me and Vicky. We played Tainted Grail with me and Vicky. And I've played Arkham Horror the Living Card Game with the same group of people. So those are the games which I've played with the same group of people. And it's interesting. I've been thinking about this since you asked this question, because and if we compare Gloomhaven and Tainted Grail. Now, Tainted Grail, I think, and Vicky will nod or shake her head in agreement, I think Tainted Grail needs the same group of people all the way through, because the narrative element is very, very strong, right? Gloomhaven, there is a narrative element to the scenarios and the story, but it's not essential. I think if a group of friends were playing Gloomhaven one night and said, Paul, do you want to come round and join us for one night, just play a character? I could join in. I'd play a game of Gloomhaven. I would join in that game. I would enjoy that game. And it kind of doesn't matter to me what else is going on in the story. Whereas Tainted Grail is all about the story. You think? I mean, yeah, I'm not saying Gloomhaven isn't better if you have the same group, but something like Tainted Grail, I think, needs the same group. And something like the Arkham Horror Living Card Game as well. Arkham Horror Living Card Game is kind of in the middle, because the Arkham Horror Living Card Game on its own, one game of Arkham Horror LCG is fantastic. And you could just drop into one game of that and play it and it'd be brilliant. Well, in my opinion, because I love the game. But it's better when you know the overall story. Okay, so yeah, they're the games that come to mind for me. Yeah, I mean, something like the Maracaibo campaign as well. You could, but I don't think that would really benefit from it. Because the story in the Maracaibo campaign is there, but it's very, very loose. So, yeah. Right, Nigel has got a very good question, but Nigel's question is about a page long. So I will try to summarise what Nigel's question is. And this is another one that I'm interested in hearing your opinion in the live chat, but I'm also interested to see what people think about this on the guild. So this is another question I might post to the guild. But he's talking about if it's important to distinguish between the term gamer and non-gamer. Because I use those terms, but some people say you shouldn't use those terms because they could be bad. Yeah, there are some who feel that the non-gamer term is bad for the hobby because it is sort of like gatekeeping or snobbery or something like that. Now, I personally don't see it like that, and I have used the term non-gamer, but I don't use it in a derogatory way. I use it I would use it as a term when trying to describe them. Now, we had a very good discussion about this earlier on. And one of the things that came out of that discussion earlier on is if you find a person in the street and you tell them that you're a gamer, then 99% of the time they will think computer games. Okay? So the term gamer outside of the board gaming hobby generally relates to computer gaming. Okay? So that was just an interesting side topic that we discussed. But to me, and Nigel goes into detail, and he says he does agree with the fact that the term non-gamer could be taken in a negative way, but he does feel that it's useful to make some kind of distinction between fanatical board gamers, hello, and people who maybe only play one game a year at a Christmas get-together and show no interest in playing a game outside of that. Okay, now to me, that's a non-gamer. If somebody only plays a game once a year because that's what's going on and they don't show any interest in playing games at any other time, then they're a non-gamer to me. But Vicky made the point to me earlier on that if somebody plays Monopoly once a week and has never played any modern board games, are they a gamer? Yes, they are. It doesn't matter what kind of games they play, but if somebody is actively interested in playing games, whatever those games are, they're a gamer. Now, the reason why Nigel made this comment, I think, and apologies if I've got this wrong, Nigel, but he's talking about whenever he sees people recommending gateway games to non-gamers. And the games like Ticket to Ride, Catan, Carcassonne get mentioned. And Nigel's wondering whether these recommendations are based on whether an experienced gamer is available to teach people those games, or whether the rules, and crucially the rulebooks of those games, are straightforward enough for non-gamers to learn. Now, I personally think that the rulebooks for things like Ticket to Ride are very accessible to non-gamers. You could find somebody accidentally bought a copy of Ticket to Ride for Christmas, and a group of people sit down to try and play it who haven't played anything other than Snakes and Ladders or Monopoly. And I think I think they would be okay with it, because I think the rulebook for Ticket to Ride is good, and it's aimed at the wider audience. But Nigel sort of he goes on to talk about Wingspan, because he says that he's on the Wingspan Facebook group, and the Wingspan Facebook group I'm not a member of the Wingspan Facebook group, and I've not played Wingspan, but I get the accessibility of Wingspan. Okay, I get the fact that it's a game that appeals to a much wider audience outside of our core gaming hobby. But the downside of that is that there are non-gamers who are buying Wingspan who are struggling with it. And they are posting messages, what we would class as very, very simple questions on the Facebook group. They've watched the how to play video, and they are still struggling with it. And he's saying that, and Nigel's asking me as a rules writer, teacher and game developer, is it important for publishers to make a distinction between gamers and non-gamers in terms of how easily a person with no experience could approach the game blind with no help from somebody who knows the game? Now, I always try to write my rule books from the angle of, you know nothing about this game whatsoever, and this rule book is going to teach you how to play the game. The idea behind the rule books I write are you do not need to go and watch a video. In fact, you shouldn't need to watch a video. If you need to go and watch a video, the rule book has failed, in my opinion. Now, a video, if it helps and it complements the rule book, great. But if you cannot learn the game from the rule book, then the rulebook has failed at meeting its primary objective. Do I think it's important for the people in the industry to differentiate between gamers and non-gamers? No, whatsoever. Now, if this person who only plays Monopoly once a year suddenly gets given a copy of Burn Cycle randomly, they're going to struggle. Now, they're going to struggle with the rulebook, even though I'm going to try and make the rulebook as good as possible, whereas a gamer, serious gamer, heavy gamer, hobby gamer, whatever, might still struggle with the Burn Cycle rulebook because it's a heavy game and there's a lot going on, but they would be able to cope with it. So, yeah, I don't think, for me, it is important for me to differentiate with my professional hat on. I will write that rulebook no matter what the target audience is. And also Nigel's final question is, if the term non-gamer does seem exclusive, is there a preferred term in the industry? And I don't know. I don't know if there is or not. So there we go. That's the question. Yeah, interested to see what you think. And as I say, if somebody wants to continue this question on the Board Game Geek Guild, it's a good one, and we could discuss this. This is like a group of people around the table discussing it for an hour. I'd definitely be interested in finding other people's opinions on that. Okay, next question. We have 4 left from the Q&As, from the guild questions, and then I'm going to do something a little bit different and a little bit special. 2 things, in fact. Mick is asking, what's my opinion of Marvel Champions versus Sentinels of the Multiverse? So this is a really easy question, Mick, for me to answer. Marvel Champions is amazing. I love the game, and I could easily see myself playing it, a long time. I absolutely love Marvel Champions. I think it is one of the best designed games ever, and I love the Marvel Universe. It's not why I love the game. I think the game is just a brilliant design, and I've never played Sentinels of the Multiverse. So there we go. It's easy for me to answer that. Mick, love the Aeon's End stream. Looking forward to seeing more. Yes, Aeon's End, fantastic game. I will be doing more Aeon's End. I don't know exactly when, but Aeon's End is definitely a game that I will be playing more over the coming months, years, whatever. Mickey's asking, do I have any thoughts on the physical versus digital versions of the game? Do I enjoy it more playing multi-handed solo or with other human players? Right. There's actually a bit more to the question there. Do I prefer playing the physical game or the digital game? The physical game, definitely. Although the digital implementation is very good. The digital implementation of the game is very good, but I do like the physical game. But he's asking, do I prefer playing it multi-handed, solo, or with other players? Because I've actually played the Aeon Zen digital app multiplayer. Because you can do that. With Steam, you can actually share your screen and give control of your keyboard and mouse to your friends. And last week, me and Rick, friend of mine, we played Aeon's End digital version multiplayer. We actually did that. The question is, do I prefer playing it multi-handed? And the answer is no. And this is a generic thing. I do not like playing multi-handed in any game because I struggle. Gloomhaven, Lord of the Rings, Journeys in Middle-earth, Pathfinder Adventure card game, Arkham Horror living card game, Aeon's End, any game where I have to play multi-handed solo, no, it's just too much. Now I have done it, but I'm saying I don't enjoy it as much because it's a bit too much pressure for me. Scott is asking, very, very simple question from Scott. Under Falling Skies or So You've Been Eaten? Now, I'm professionally involved with both of those games, so it's a little bit of an unfair question, Scott, but I would have to say Under Falling Skies. Now, Under Falling Skies is a solo game, whereas So You've Been Eaten is either a solo game or a two-player game, and the advantage of So You've Been Eaten is it's effectively a two-player game, but you can play either side. You can either play the robot, you can either play a miner against a hibernating beast, or you can play the beast against a robot miner. Under Falling Skies is there's just one way of playing it. You are people on Earth trying to defend from aliens. But, yeah. Under Falling Skies, I think, is the better game. And if you gave me the choice of two of them to play, I would always pick Under Falling Skies because I think the game's brilliant. And I think not just the base game is brilliant, but what CGE have done, the amount of content they've put in that box, that could have been a £45 game for the amount of content that's in there. It's very, very good. Right. Next question is from JB. We've got 2 questions left. And he said, a couple of months ago, I mentioned that a seminar that I held, there was I did a seminar on teaching games. It was actually at UK Games Expo. It was UK Games Expo. I think I did a seminar on teaching games, and I said that it would be going live on my channel. I haven't actually got round. I need to find the video and get it from whoever published it, because I don't think they actually sent it to me. I can't remember, so I have to find where it is. If anybody knows where it is, please send me the link. It was either Virtually Expo last year, or it was Tabletop Gaming Live. I think it was Virtually Expo last year. But yeah, if somebody wants to find it and send me the link, I'll download it and I'll put it up on my channel, because I do seminars at conventions on the best ways of teaching games, and that one was actually recorded. Are there any other recorded seminars of mine? I did one on rulebook writing, but I don't think that was recorded. I'm not sure. Not sure. Right. Final question from the ones that I've been asked in advance is from Christopher Chetwood. What is my favourite way to select a starting player? He says he personally prefers thematic selection. Like in Dice Hospital, it is the first player to have last visited a hospital, which is a bit annoying when playing against his wife because his wife is a nurse. So, although I like starting player rules, which are a little bit funny, like the last player to visit a hospital, my preferred method, and this is one I came up with when I was demoing games at conventions, because when I'm demoing games at conventions, especially in America, I kind of like the fact that people go, who's that weird British guy? So one of the methods that I use for determining a start player is I will get all of the players to give me a piece, and I'll say, can you give me one of your pieces? Yeah. And then I literally throw them at the wall. So I throw the pieces at the wall, which could be like 5, 10, 15 feet away, and they're all looking at me like, what's he done? And then I'll walk up to the wall and I'll go, right, and the closest piece to the wall is blue. You are the start player. So that's my favorite method. I get strange looks and I get weird comments, but it's a bit of fun. So yeah, that's generally what I'll do. Throw the pieces at the wall. Right. That is the end of all of the questions that I've been asked in advance. And as mentioned earlier, I have a guild on BGG. Please join the guild. Please subscribe. And now we're going to do a couple of different things. The first one I'm going to do is I'm going to open a letter. Now, as some of you will know, I am professionally involved with the people behind the Detective Society. The Detective Society is a series of escape room style games. I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that's right to say that they are escape room style games. It's a puzzle game that you subscribe to, and once a month you get the package through the post, and it's puzzles set with a detective style theme. And they sent me a mystery package 2 weeks ago, which we opened, and it was this. Okay, so this is the mystery package that we had a couple of weeks ago. And we didn't know what it was. We didn't know it was coming. And then when we opened it up, inside there was a memory stick. Okay, now we played that memory stick, and there was this garbled audio message that basically said something about an artifact, and you need to protect it. So this is the artifact that we've been sent. We've got to protect this. We've got to keep it safe. I'm actually going to use it for putting components in, I think, because it's quite cool. And I know Tom from Slicker Drips also got one, but he got a pyramid. And then earlier this week, we got a letter. So we've not opened this yet, but this is, and this is, if you subscribe to the Detective Society, you will not get this, okay? Apologies for that if you thought you did. This isn't going to everybody. This is just going to a few people, and we don't know what it is. So we're going to open it. And I don't know if this is any spoilers or hints for we don't know what this is. Right, I'm going to read it out. Dear Detective, by now, there's a van outside. By now, you should have received the package I sent to you. As you will have seen, I discovered an audio message which I managed to smuggle to you in a trinket from the gift shop of the museum I work at. Right. You are probably wondering what's going on. Unfortunately, I don't have much to tell you yet. All I will say is that I believe something sinister is happening involving the museum. Something that may even be paranormal. I'll be in touch when I have more information. For now, stay alert. I am sure that I will need your help when the time comes. Yours faithfully, Dr. Claudia Cobb. Right, there you go. So basically, this is an extra little thing that a few of us are getting to do on the side. And yeah, I guess we're going to get another thing next week. So there you go. Do you want to put them safe somewhere? Because I lost the letter early on. Right. The second thing is this month's contest. So, well, this month's contest. I do 2 contests every month. There's always a little bit of confusion over the contests that I run. So I'm just going to explain it now. Every month, I do a monthly giveaway for my patron supporters. If you are a patron supporter of mine at producer level or higher, you don't need to do anything, right? You automatically get entered into that contest. And the contest this month is to win a copy of Stroganov. I could put an image on screen, but I haven't got it sorted out. So Game Brewer have given me a copy of Stroganov. I mean, well, they haven't yet because the game's not out yet, but they have said to me that I can give away a copy of Stroganov to one of my supporters. So that's running now. It will run for another 2 days. And if you are a patron supporter of mine at producer level or higher, you automatically get entered into the contest. If you are not a patron supporter of mine, but you've considered supporting me and you want to be in with a shout of winning a copy of Stroganov, then feel free to start supporting me on Patreon. Because a few months ago, the person who just joined me, I think it was the last person who joined me on the last day of the month, they ended up winning whatever the contest was for that month. So that's the Stroganov giveaway. You don't need to do anything. Right. The second giveaway is the one that I'm doing right now. And Vicky's going to put a link into the chat, and this is one you actually need to enter by clicking on the link. And all you need to do is you need to click on that link and you need to answer a couple of questions, and the secret word is going to be, have you got that thing that I just gave you and told you to put somewhere safe? Is that a Viking on the front cover? That's a Viking, isn't it? Yeah, so the secret word is Viking. All you need to do is click on that link, put your name, put the word Viking, and if you are a patron supporter, say yes to the Are You a Gaming Rules patron supporter, and every correct entry, in other words, if you put the word Viking, you will get 1 entry into the contest. If you are a patron supporter, you'll get 2 entries into the contest. And I'm going to do the draw. When am I doing the draw? The 2nd, Sunday. So if you're not watching this live, if you're watching this before Sunday, the 2nd of April, you can still click on the link. The link will take you to the form, and Oh, Vikings didn't have horns on their helmet. Okay, well, anyway, the secret word is Viking, even if that isn't a Viking. Thank you very much, Monica. So yes, there you go. 2 contests. The second one you need to enter by clicking on the link, and you do that you can do that now. The first monthly giveaway is for the copy of Stroganoff, and you don't need to do anything if you are a Patreon supporter. Right. That's that bit out of the way. Time for a drink. How are we doing for time? That's about right. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, 2nd of May. Did I say 2nd of April? Yes, thank you, John. I know. 2nd of May. I know what month it is. Right, I'm now going to be, for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to be answering as many questions as I can from the live chat. The first one is Victory BHG. Have I looked at the digital version of Concordia? Am I looking forward to it? I haven't looked at the digital version of Concordia. I didn't know there was going to be a digital version of Concordia. Am I looking forward to it? So now that you've told me there's a digital version of Concordia, no. Now, that's my gut reaction. Okay, Concordia is a fantastic game. I love Concordia. I think it's a brilliant game. But there is an interface online on, is it Board Game Arena, Boachaja, or Yucata? It's one of the online gaming websites, which I think is fantastic. So if I ever want my Concordia fix, and I can't play it in person, the online implementation is brilliant. And I really do need to play Concordia again. It's fantastic. So sure, if there's a digital version coming out, but you know, I don't play digital versions of board games that often. I've played a couple, but not that often. Like, I don't have the Agricola one. I don't have, there's quite a few that I don't have. Next question is, would I rather play the digital version of Through the Ages versus the board game? Now, are you asking that question because I've spent the last 45 minutes saying that the physical version of board games is better? I would always 100% play the digital version of Through the Ages. In fact, okay, if 3 friends came round my house now and wanted to play Through the Ages, I would suggest that we all sit around the table with our laptops or iPads and we play Through the Ages rather than getting the game and physically setting it up. And there is very, very few games that I would say that to. Sure, the physical version of Through the Ages is great. It looks great, okay? But Through the Ages can take time. And the digital version is so much better to play. But also, when I play Through the Ages, I don't generally play it live. I generally play it asynchronously because I need time to think about my turn. I need time to think. I need time to undo. So Through the Ages, for me, works best with the app and played asynchronously. And yeah, I would always rather play the digital version of Through the Ages. The board game does take long and you need a massive table for it. Yep, absolutely true. Right, next question is from Neil. What is my opinion of the new monumental version of Clash of Cultures? So, I have been professionally involved in this project. Okay, WizKids are one of my clients. They contacted me and said, Paul, we're doing a new version of Clash of Cultures. They're going to be called the Monumental Edition. It's going to include the base game, the expansion, and some tweaks, and we'd like you to work on the rulebook for it. Now, I've done that. The rulebook is done and dusted. Me and a couple of other members of my team worked for months on the rulebook for this game because it's a heavy game. Now, I can give you my opinion on the original Clash of Cultures. I wanted to like it. Okay, it's a civilization-based game, and there is so much about Clash of Cultures that I think is a really, really good game. Loads about it. But having played it about 7 or 8 times, I ended up making the decision after my last play of Clash of Cultures, I don't ever want to play this game again. And that isn't because it's a good game, right? I think Clash of Cultures is a very good game. It does have randomness in the dice rolls for the combat, okay? But it's an extremely good game. But I couldn't play it. And the reason I couldn't play it is, again, it's my brain and the way it works. And it's because the last 3 times that I played it, I basically made mistakes that I realised I'm never going to be able to overcome these mistakes. So Clash of Cultures, every player has a player board with lots of cubes in, with lots of different technologies, and all of those technologies change the rules of the game. Then you have other special things that change the rules of the game. And then you have something else that changes the rules of the game. And I'll never forget this because it's stuck in my mind. is I had a city, it was well defended, it was a fort, and I thought I was safe. And then another player attacked me, and I was like, oh, but I can't, you can't attack me because I have fortifications and I'm by the side of a river and everything else. And he went, yeah, but I've got this technology and I've got this wonder, and this wonder gives me an ability that I'm allowed to do that. And I was like, okay, right, there you go. Now, that is down to me. That is not down to the game. That is down to me not realizing, and the player wasn't keeping it secret or anything like that, but I was just overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that was going on, and I wasn't able to process it, and I wasn't able to therefore play the game effectively. So that was my experience with Clash of Cultures. Now, the new Monumental version, it isn't going to fix any of those problems, but I am going to get a copy because I worked on the rulebook, and I am 100% going to be covering it on the channel, because that experience that I've just mentioned was years ago. And certainly the new version looks amazing. WizKids, the production quality of it looks amazing. I like the new rules. It's still a complex game, but I am very much looking forward to the new Monumental version, and it will be covered on the channel when it is out. So there you go. That was a very short question, but I've answered it in a long way because I had a story to tell about Clash of Cultures. It's one of those games that annoyed me because it's a really good game and I should like it, and I just struggled with it. Andrew is asking, what board game are you most looking forward to showing people as a physical version once we can meet again? Right, well, I actually have something planned. So the first time after lockdown ends in the UK, which is May the 17th, sorry, no, lockdown doesn't end. The restrictions on meeting other people in the same house ease on May the 17th. So on May the 19th, Rick is coming over and we are playing Imperial Assault all day. So put it in your calendar. In fact, take the day off work if you want to, because that's what me and Rick have done. Okay? Ricky's coming round in the morning, and from about 9 o'clock in the morning till about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we are going to be live streaming playing Imperial Assault. The physical version, Rick's painting the miniatures. Yeah, we've already got names for some of the stormtroopers that we're going to meet along the way. That's what's going to happen. So is that the one that I'm most looking forward to? It's the first one that's going to happen. Is it the one I'm most looking forward to? I'm not sure, because on May the 21st, Nick and Gemma are coming round, and we're going to be playing Paris with the new expansion. And then the week after, Dan is coming round on the Wednesday, and we're going to be playing Imperium. But yeah, I mean, the list of games that I've got that I can't wait to properly have people around. Arkham Horror Living Card Game. Not played it now for a year and a month. Yeah, 13 months. Really looking forward to getting back into that. Okay, next question from Monica. Which documentary series do you watch on TV? We don't watch any documentary series on TV. So we don't watch much TV. The only TV we watch is comedy shows. We watch Mock the Week, Have I Got News for You, QI, and things like that. And we also watch sci-fi and fantasy programs. So we're currently watching the DC universe, the Arrowverse thing. So we're watching Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow. But we also watch the Marvel ones as well. We're just focusing on the DC ones at the moment. Yeah, that's what we've been watching a lot of. But in the past, we've watched, what other TV series have we watched? Water Sea stuff. Write it down. Yeah, so documentary series we don't watch. Yeah, there's no document. I mean, Vicky likes the Blue Planet, and we'll. Oh, is that what you were trying to say? Is that Water Sea stuff? So yeah, we've got Blue Planet like on DVD, and it's one of those things that I really would like to give more time for, because when I watch those, certainly Blue Planet as an exception, or the latest series that he did, I think it was just called Earth or something like that. I find those fascinating. I just don't give myself the time to watch them, because whenever we have any TV time, we're watching the programs that I've mentioned. Do I wash my hands before playing board games, and do I care if other people wash theirs, says John. No, I don't think I do. I wouldn't think, oh, I'm about to play a board game, I'll wash my hands. I wash my hands generally before eating food, and usually afterwards if it was pizza or something like that. But no, that's not something that I do, and is not something that's bothered me. Now, interestingly, John, if you are still here in the chat, are you asking that because of the current situation, or are you asking that as a general question? Because in the current situation, we should. So, Rick, when you come round on May the 19th, you're going to be washing your hands every 5 minutes. No, not that much. But yeah, you're right. We should, but pre-COVID, it's not something that I wouldn't have bothered with. Right. Scott's got another question. Is sleeving some Marvel Champions whilst he watches? Okay, what sleeves are you using? Have I played any of Galaxy's Most Wanted? If so, what do I think of it? No. So I stopped getting Marvel Champions over a year ago. I haven't got anything for it for over a year. I can tell you why privately, because I don't really want to go into the details here, but I should, right? And at some point in the next year, I'm probably going to go, right, I tell you what, I need to have everything to do with Marvel Champions, and I will be hunting around for everything that I've missed. A little bit like I did with Arkham Horror Living Card Game. I got into the Arkham Horror card game about 3 or 4 years after it came out, and then I just spent hundreds of pounds and bought everything there was for it, and I've fallen behind on that as well. But I'm not playing it. You know, I don't want to get into the situation I got into with Netrunner, which was I was buying the packs every month when they were coming out, and I just wasn't playing it. And the reality is, I don't have the time to play Marvel Champions. Well, no, I do have the time, but I'm playing other stuff instead. There isn't enough time for me to play all of the games that I want to play, and there are other reasons why I dropped off Marvel Champions, which I can tell you about later. Right, next. Hitchhiker's Guide or Lord of the Rings? Both are amazing. This is a very good question, Sean. I would have to go with Lord of the Rings, but yeah, I love Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love Douglas Adams' sense of humour. But Lord of the Rings for me is something that is more evocative and more gripping. I prefer fantasy to sci-fi, but it's not just that. Yeah, the Lord of the Rings setting for me is, yeah. So yeah, Lord of the Rings for me, but let us know what you think in the chat. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or Lord of the Rings? Let us know in the chat. HHTG or LOTR. Next question is from Class. He wants to try an accessible war game for solo play. He's got no experience with them whatsoever. Watched a video by Liz Davidson, who is great. Yep, Liz is great. In which she recommends 3 of them: Shores of Tripoli, Castle Itter, and Field Commander Alexander. Do I have any additional tips? So I haven't played any of those that have been mentioned, but I can tell you that Castle Itter is one that is going to be arriving with me at some point later this year, and I'm going to be covering it on the channel. But if Liz has recommended Castle Itter is by David Thompson, I would go and check out my live stream of Pavlov's House, because that is a solo war game. Yeah, it's on the channel. Go and check it out. Search for Gaming Rules Pavlov's House, but I've covered the digital version and I've also covered the physical version. So I would definitely recommend that one for solo play. In fact, that playthrough, if you do watch it, was possibly the tensest, most exciting playthrough that's ever been on my channel. Watch it to the end if you do watch it. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to be checking out Castle Itter. I don't know about any of the other ones. How are we getting on with the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or Lord of the Rings? Mostly Lord of the Rings. Okay. Where is the background picture from, says Jill. So what I did is I Googled April and then found an image that I liked. There you go. That's what I did. Yeah, I just literally Googled the word April and found an image. So Paul is asking, on yesterday's Pathfinder stream, I mentioned that it's best with 3 to 5 players, in my opinion. What would you recommend for solo play that was in the same vein? Still Pathfinder or something else? Well, here's the thing. Let's go back to Gloomhaven again. Gloomhaven, when you play solo, you have to play 2 characters. Because Gloomhaven with 1 character doesn't work. The maths don't work, and it just doesn't work. So Gloomhaven, you have to play with 2 characters. And Pathfinder, the adventure card game that I played yesterday, streams on the channel if you're interested, I played solo, but you could play with 2 characters. And I think it would be a better game with 2 characters. For a start, some of the powers and some of the abilities don't work in solo. Like, I was looking at weapons, and if you've got ranged weapons, one of the cool things about the ranged weapons in the game is if there is a fight taking place at another location, you can join in using your ranged weapon. Okay? Well, in a solo game, that's not going to happen. So if you decide to take a character who uses a bow as a weapon into a solo game of Pathfinder card game, it still works, but you're not going to be able to use one of the abilities of your weapon because there is never going to be a fight at another location. Back to the question. Would I recommend a game for solo play that's in the same vein? I think Marvel Champions works really well solo. But again, I think Marvel Champions does work for me better with multiplayer, but I don't think the difference is as much. So, yeah, a game that's in the same vein as that for solo play. I might have to ask the chat. Yeah. Just noticed that Johannes is in the chat from Board Gaming Ramblings. Hi, Johannes. Good to see you. Yeah. Yeah, let us know in the chat. A solo sort of fantasy game that is actually okay, that is good solo, that isn't much better multiplayer. I'm not sure. Matt is asking, will I be involved in Nova, the new game from Mindclash Games that they plan to announce in May? Yes. I'm not sure I am allowed to tell you anything about it, but David Turtsey is looking at booking flights to come and see me. That's all I can say. We don't know if he's going to be allowed out of the Netherlands, and we don't know if he's going to be allowed into the country. Nothing to do with COVID. It's David Turtsey, you know. So I'm joking. Yeah, I am 100% going to be involved in the new Mindclash games, and I'm not allowed to tell you how I will be involved. But there will be some video coverage, I can tell you that. Monica is asking, what would happen to my collection if I suddenly decided that I wouldn't be playing games anymore? We can delete that question. No, then I don't even want to think about it because that is never going to happen. No, we're not burning them. It's bad for the environment. There's plastics. eBay. And what would you do with the money? Jewelry. Okay, so we're going to sell my games collection. Yeah, what would happen to it? I can't even think about it. It's just, it's never going to happen. So it would go on eBay and Vicky would buy lots of jewellery. Yeah. James is asking, what are my thoughts on the hostage negotiator games? Would I consider doing a live play of them? I've never played any of them. I've heard good things about them, but I've never played one of them, and I don't own one of them. So yes, I would do a live play of one if I had one. So I have thoughts on the hostage negotiator games based on the fact that I know very little about it and I've never played one of them, is that they can be a little bit random. I don't know where I know that from, but let me just clarify that. I have played a number of solo games now, and let's refer back to Pavlov's House, okay? Because Pavlov's House has loads of dice rolling and loads of card drawing. So that's quite random. And in a solo game, I don't mind that level of randomness. Now, if I really want a thinky, brain-burny solo game, I'll play Cloudspire, okay? I will play something like Cloudspire, which is really, really super thinky and very, very heavy. In a shorter, lighter game, I don't mind a bit of randomness. Now, Pavlov's House wasn't short, but correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know where I got that information from, that it can be a bit random, but I would definitely like to play it because I've heard lots of good things about it, and my tolerance for randomness in solo games is a lot better now than it was even just a year ago. So yeah, I'd definitely be happy with that. Next question from Aaron. He's fairly new to the channel. Thank you very much, Aaron. I seem to enjoy some heavier games. What are my opinion on Splotter games and the PAX game? So yeah, Aaron, welcome to the channel and thank you for asking the question. I do enjoy some heavier games. One of the misconceptions about me that people have is that I only like playing heavy games. And that's just not true. I like heavy games, but I also like medium games, and I also like some light games. I'm I have a wide variety of games. If you look at the kind of games that I've covered on the channel just in the last 6 months, there is a huge variety. Some of them are really super heavy games. Some of them are quite light. Some of them are short. Some of them are long. I like a wide variety of games. And I don't mind the fact that people say to me that I'm a good teacher of heavy games. But I don't like it when people say, oh yeah, Paul, he only plays super heavy games. He doesn't play anything light. That's just not true at all. What are my opinion on Splotter games and PAX games? So I do have opinions on Splotter games. I have some Splotter games. I have Roads and Boats. I have played Antiquity. I have played Greed. I have played Duck Dealer. I have played Bus. I own Bus. My opinion on Splotter games is that they are definitely unique. Splotter, the designers behind the Splotter games, have definitely got, they're a genius in terms of game design. They're very, very clever, and they do something that other games don't do. So that's good. Now, in the past, Splotter games have been very overpriced for what you get for the components, and also for the quality of the components. The quality of the components, the artwork and the graphic design is a letdown. The rulebooks, generally not great. But I know the Splotter has their fans, and I don't want to knock them. I'm just giving you my honest opinion about the games. I think the games are great games. I think, well, Duck Dealer wasn't that good. I think the game design is very good, but it is let down by poor graphic design, artwork. And I know artwork is subjective. I'm just generalizing here. If I get my copy of Roads and Boats out, I love Roads and Boats. It's a really weird, quirky game that takes forever to play, and I need to cover that solo. Yeah, that really needs to get covered solo. But yeah, so yeah, I'm a fan of some of them. Some of them I'm not a fan of. What's the one that I played that I thought was brilliant? Great Zimbabwe. A friend of mine had, he might still have it, Great Zimbabwe. I played it. I thought it was a brilliant game. Now, I got a broken combo and won the game by 1,000,000 points. And then played it again afterwards and didn't get the broken combo. But that was down to the other players who let me get the broken combo, apparently. Now, this is a whole other side topic about when everybody's new to the game, one player might just accidentally pick up the broken combo, and then when you post about it on Board Game Geek, the fans of the game blame the other players for, well, it's their fault. You know, the game's not broken. It's their fault. They let you buy that card. We're all playing the game for the first time. None of us realise how good things are. Anyway, I've gone off a side tangent. So yes, Splotter games, very, very unique in what they are. And I will always be interested in looking at a Splotter game because of that. And yes, I will be playing solo Roads and Boats at some point on the channel. I might play multiplayer. What's my opinion on the PAX games? Oh, I really don't know where to start. So the PAX games, PAX Premier 2nd Edition is a game which I really need to play. Everybody I know who has played PAX Premier 2nd Edition has said it is amazing. Absolutely amazing. For some people I know it's their game of the year, and I am sad that I haven't got round to trying PAX Premier 2nd Edition yet. So there's that one. The other PAX games, I have tried a couple of them, and I am not a fan. And I'm going to try and not go on a rant here. I will try and not go on a rant, because Aaron's new to the channel. And I'm not shouting at you, Aaron. But when you say the PAX games, I associate the PAX games with a certain designer that I am not a fan of for a number of reasons. And this is why I don't really want to go into details here. But also, things from that designer are possibly the worst rulebooks ever written in the history of rulebooks. And I'm not a fan of that. I am not a fan of a designer and or publisher that consistently puts out terrible, terrible rulebooks and does nothing to make them any better. And they're the associations that I have with the PAX games. Now, I know not all of the PAX games are by the same designer, but that's the association that I've got. Now, please tell me in the chat if I've got this wrong, because I know there's a number of PAX games, and certainly PAX Premier 2nd Edition, I don't think is designed by the person that I'm talking about. But yeah, I might be wrong on this, and please let me know in the chat if I'm wrong. But that's the association that that I've got with those. Right, next question. Is Cloudspire compared to Thinky, is Cloudspire compared to Gloomhaven or Mage Knight? Neither. I can't compare Cloudspire to either Gloomhaven or Mage Knight. In fact, I can't compare Cloudspire to any other game in my collection. Okay? Whereas Gloomhaven, on the very, very surface, is a fantasy cooperative adventure game. I have other fantasy cooperative adventure games. Mage Knight, there are other games that I have that are similar in overall approach to Mage Knight, but Cloudspire, yeah, I think Cloudspire stands alone, as I don't have another game like Cloudspire in my collection, really. I mean, okay, very, very surface of Cloudspire, it is a two-player tactical skirmish game. Okay, and I do have other two-player tactical skirmish games, but not like Cloudspire. So I can't compare it, I don't think. Okay, so Scott has confirmed, yes, Pax Pamir is definitely not Phil Eklund, which is the designer that I've been talking about. I knew that. I didn't know about the other ones, but Scott has said Pax Pamir is Cole Whirl, yep. Pax Transhumanity is Matt Eklund, but all of the other Pax games are Phil Eklund. Right, okay. Thank you, Scott. I'm glad I wasn't completely wrong on that. Mindy is asking, what do I think about coin games? So coin games, and for those who don't know what coin games are, they are all, coin stands for counterinsurgency games, and I don't know how many of them there are now, 6, 7, 8, but there's a whole bunch of coin games, and they are all historical, and I think they're all historical. There's one coming out which isn't historical, which is a futuristic one set on Mars. But all of the other ones are historical, either set in Afghanistan or the Vietnam War. Fire in the Lake is one of them. There's lots of them in the series, and they're all known as coin games. And I've played one of them once, and I have a huge respect for these games. And there's a part of me which wants to play them more. Because these games, certainly the one I played, there are 4 factions in the game. 2 of them are sort of allied together, sort of. And 2 of them, the other 2 are sort of allied together, sort of. But each faction it's asymmetric. They are asymmetric games, and each of the factions works in a very different way. And certainly from the experience of the one I've played, which was Fire in the Lake, which is about the Vietnam War, it was an amazing experience to play the game, because I wanted to play a coin game, so I played it, and I am happy that I played a coin game, but without knowing what the other factions can do and it's like the same problem with every asymmetric game. So for example, I was playing the Viet Cong, and in order to do this objective that I was trying to do, I grouped all of my cubes together in one place. And then the Americans came along and carpet bombed me and destroyed all of my cubes. Now, if I'd have known that they had that ability, I wouldn't have grouped them all together in the same place. Now, that was down to me as a player. But in order to get good at those games, you need to know not just what you can do, you need to know what all of the other people can do. So if you're not prepared to put in the effort it requires to learn the game to that level, then you're not going to be able to appreciate the game. And I don't think you really, because me doing that actually wrecked the game for everybody, because I shouldn't have done that. And by me doing it, it severely affected the outcome of the game. But yeah, there is a part of me that really wants to go back and play Fire in the Lake again and again and again, because I think they are a really, really good design. I think they're very, very clever design. And I also like games with a historical accuracy, and the things that happen in the game actually did happen. So yeah. Next question. Gilly's here, thanks for the channel. Do I have any news from the Batman Rulebook? The only news is that I have now officially passed the Google Doc that is the Batman Rulebook over to Monolith. Monolith have passed it on to the graphic designer. The graphic designer is starting to do the layout. Once the layout has been done, it will come back to me, and then we'll start doing any final proofing or anything like that. So yeah, I've done my bit of the rulebook. I still think the missions book needs a bit of work, and I haven't done that yet. But as far as the core rulebook goes, that is done, that is there, that is finished. And we'll see. When the layout comes back, we will see what it looks like. I'm very nervous, but also very excited about it because Batman Gotham City Chronicles is a great game that was made unplayable / inaccessible due to the nature of the rulebook. And what I'm going to enjoy the most is the fact that not that all of these new people are going to go out and buy the game, but the people who've already bought it. I've had so many messages from people who've said, "Oh, I backed Batman Gotham City Chronicles in Season 1 or Season 2. I have the game sat here. We tried playing it once. We couldn't play it because of the rulebook, and we put it away. We are waiting for your rulebook to play it." And this is what I'm really excited about, is the people who already own the game suddenly are going to be able to play the game because of the new rulebook. Now, I've done the best job I can with the rulebook. It is still a complex game, okay? You are still going to have a massive learning curve with the game. If you are somebody who has got the game or who is thinking about buying the game, please don't go out and buy the game just because I did the rulebook, okay? Don't think, oh, Paul's done the rulebook, this is going to be a breeze, okay? The Batman Gotham City Chronicles game is a heavy game with a lot going on, okay? And there is going to be a learning curve. I've tried to make that learning curve as smooth as possible for you with the new rulebook, but it's still a heavy game. Right, next question. This is from Johannes and Sullivan for Board Gaming Ramblings. When the world makes more sense, can we come to your place for a weekend of streaming? Well, I'm not going to say no. So, yeah, Johannes and Sullivan, I've already invited you to GridCon, okay? If you can attend GridCon, that would be fantastic. And if you wanted to make it a holiday in the UK and come here as well, absolutely. You are more than welcome to come here for a weekend of streaming. Vicky can go away and stay with her sister for the weekend. Well, you're not good. Yeah. I'm saying if you wanted to. Yeah, and then while she's gone, we'll play games all weekend. No, absolutely, you are more than welcome to come round. In fact, I'm already looking forward to it. Let's start making the list of what games we'll play. Through the Ages, Roads and Boats, and then that'll be the weekend done. Right, next question from Monica. Would you change the dice in a game if you have other dice that may fit well into it? Sort of a mini pimping. Oh, so I have been asked questions in the past about do I bling up my games? I think it was Luke Hector from the Broken Meeple that asked me either last month or the month before, do I bling up my games? And the general answer is no. I don't go out of my way and buying upgraded components for my games because I generally don't play them that often, each one of them. But Monica is asking, would I change the dice in a game if I had other dice that may fit well? Yes. And in fact, all of my games with a D6 in them have been already upgraded to use a gaming rules D6. So yeah, I think I probably would. It all depends. I mean, if you're looking at a game like Merlin, where it comes with 3 purple dice, 3 black dice, 3 red dice, I probably wouldn't change those because you need, like Teotihuacan. If I had other dice that would fit, that were nicer, I probably would. Sean is asking, the GMT rulebooks are very different, very terse, very technical. Do I like them? Oh, hang on. I missed the question about GridCons. I'll come back to that. Right. Question from Sean. Yes, GMT have a particular style of rulebooks. They are very different. They are very technical. Do I like them? I like them in a way. I think they could be visually more presentable. I'm not a big fan of 17.3.1. I think that is a little bit old school, and I don't think there's a need for rules like that anymore. Some people might disagree, because I know it does make sense that you can say exception 17.3.1, right? I know there is a benefit to having those, but I don't ever use those those number systems in any rule books. They are not common in Euro games. And I know GMT aren't Euro games. So I like them when they're clear. Right? Dominant Species is a GMT rulebook, but Dominant Species rulebook was written by Chad Jensen. That's why it's really good. The rulebook for Space Corp, 2025 to 2300, whatever, I thought was very good. Written by, I think, John Butterfield, and Chad Jensen was involved in that as well. So some GMT rulebooks I have read have been very good. Other GMT rulebooks that I've read, I mean, and if we talk about Chad Jensen, I got the rulebook for Combat Commander Europe, and I started reading it. that was unapproachable. That was inaccessible, right? That was just a wall of text, and I really struggled with it. So yeah, it really depends on the game. As I say, I like the ones for some of their games, but other ones for some other of their games I haven't liked at all. So yeah, it depends on the game. Right, any news on future GridCons? So yes, I can give you the news on GridCon. We do need to announce this officially on the Facebook group, but the next GridCon will be the end of November this year. So GridCon 2 will be the end of November this year. But there are unlikely to be any tickets available. The reason for that is the original GridCon 2 was supposed to be the end of November 2019, and we sold out. Now, we are in the process of contacting everybody who has a ticket to see if they can still come, because their tickets have been rolling forward. And anybody who can't attend, they will get a full refund, and those remaining tickets will be made available. I will be making them available to my patron supporters first, because my patron supporters, I like to give things back to them, because they're the people who effectively make everything that I do possible. And there's probably only going to be about 15 or 20 tickets available, as a very, very rough guess. And there are already more than that people who want to come. So if you are a patron supporter, you will have a chance of getting one of the tickets for GridCon 2, but I don't think they will ever be made available to the public. GridCon 3, have we announced it yet? We haven't announced GridCon 3, but in 2022, we are looking at doing 3 GridCons. GridCon 3, GridCon 4, and GridCon 5. GridCon 4 will be held in the summer. GridCon 5 will be held in November, and GridCon 3 will be held probably around February time. We're not 100% sure of the dates yet. So yeah, that's what's happening with future GridCons. Right. Any news about Uthea? Uthea, I can tell you just what they've made available to the public, which is, as of last week, I think, all of the files have gone to the printer. So my involvement is now done. The files have gone to the printers. They are waiting on what's it called? Oh, it's going to bug me. She sent it to me today. The drafts, that's it. She's waiting on the draft. They're waiting on the drafts. It's basically the printer will print one version of the rulebook and give it to them, and they'll look at it and they'll go, oh yeah, the colours, and they're checking everything else. And then once that's all done and approved, it will then go into mass production. So yeah, that's Uthea. Powerfade 11 is here. You tried to make some Jaffa cakes and didn't prefer the result. He's going to make some for his wife. Do I have any suggestions? Is there something we would do differently? So from Vicky, she says, make sure that the jelly is really strong, because the ones we made, once you ate them, the chocolate overpowered the jelly and you couldn't actually taste any of the orangeness. So make sure you make the orange jelly super strong, like too strong that you wouldn't be able to eat it as jelly itself, because it would be so strong. And also make sure that the chocolate doesn't have a really strong flavour. Other than that, just experiment. Is there anything we'd do differently? I don't know, because we were following, it was a live thing done by a YouTube channel. It's a family that in lockdown has started doing Saturday morning live watch along and cook along at home things. And we used the recipe from them. And the sponge was just sponge, whereas Jaffa cake sponge has got a kind of hard edge. This was kind of just like, it was a bit too spongy. The sponge was too spongy. I don't know if we did it again. I don't know if we would know what to do to make it any different, other than a stronger orange. Right, Monica is asking, she got her first ever prototype before the game was released. Are you equally happy about getting new games to test? She was overjoyed. It depends on the game. It depends on the game. So yeah, I remember when I started, before Gaming Rules was even formed. So when I was starting to get more involved with the hobby and contacting people like Check Games Edition and Watch Your Game and getting involved with them, and I would get prototypes. Well, no, I wouldn't get prototypes. They'd send me all the files. I would then spend 3 days printing them all out, cutting them out, sticking them onto cards, and I'd make my own prototype. And that was super exciting, because for me, at the time when I was just a gamer and I had no ideas that gaming rules was ever going to be a thing. I was just an excited gamer who was a fan of these publishers, and suddenly I'm getting to test their game beforehand. Do I get equally excited now about getting new games to test? It depends on the game. It really does. If Delicious Games contacted me and said, Paul, we've got a new prototype of the new Vladimir Suki game. We'd like to send it to you so you can test it and tell us what you think. I would be super excited because I'm a massive fan of his games. Okay, so if I get one from a client who says, Paul, we've got a new game, we'd like you to test it, then it's work. So there's a difference. Yeah, I know what it feels like to get your first prototype to be sent to you, and I would say that for me now, although I'm like excited about it, it's kind of that's the routine. That's the normal thing. So I'm excited about it from a point of, you know, if they were to send me a prototype of Frostpunk, or if they were to send me a prototype of Burn Cycle, I'd be super excited because I'm hugely looking forward to those games. Can I share my experiences with City of Kings? Yeah. So City of Kings is a game which I was very, very much looking forward to. You know, the designer, he's just up the road, he's in Bristol, and he designed it. He spent years designing it. And, you know, all credit to him. You know, Frank has now formed a company from it, and he's a good games designer, and he's made a huge success of what he's done. So, you know, I really respect somebody who has the dedication to do that. And Frank has not just designed the game, but the way that he's run his business has been very, very good. And Frank is still, he's an old head on young shoulders, and he's still got a lot of things to do. However, despite me really looking forward to City of Kings, I played it about 4 or 5 times, and I didn't enjoy the game. Yeah, I've not actually done a review of it, but it's a game which wasn't for me, and that's a shame. I was actually quite disappointed in it, in the fact that I was really looking forward to it, because fantasy cooperative game, look at it, it looks great, and you know, Frank's done all of this work, and on paper, when I was reading the rules, I was thought, this is going to be really interesting. But then when I played it, I found that the combat in the game was too abstracted for me, and it didn't really fit with the game. Now, I don't mind deterministic combat. I really don't mind deterministic combat. But the way that the combat worked in this game, that the bad guy would attack everything in the horizontal row or the vertical row, it just didn't seem to fit for me. So yeah, I tried it a few times, and yeah, I didn't get on with it. Jonathan has said he's found the similar feeling in the Isle of Cats. Isle of Cats I thought was great. Isle of Cats I've played. Isle of Cats I thought was a good game. There was a couple of bits about it that I thought were a little odd, but I thought the general concept of Isle of Cats being a tile laying game, but where you only have to cover specific spaces and not just all spaces, I thought was really good. So yeah, I've got this sort of, if I ever have time, to go back to City of Kings to see if I was missing something. But I think giving it a game 4 or 5 goes and not enjoying it after that is like, yeah. Next question. How has the learning curve of reading and understanding rulebooks been? How has the learning curve of reading and understanding rulebooks been? I'm not sure I understand the question. Yeah. No. Nope. If you can explain, Monica, I'm sorry, I don't get the question. Do you know what the question? No. Right. Yeah. Let me know what you mean, and I will answer it. Ahmed wants to know, did I play Madara or Arena, the contest, and what is my opinion on them? So I haven't played Madara, but I need to. Okay, because a couple of people that I know, one of them, if he's still in the chat, Tom Slicker Drips, likes Madara, and John Madani, friend of mine, we like similar types of games. He said Madara is just amazing. If I had spare time and capacity, I would be contacting the publishers of Madara and offering to cover the game on the channel, because everything that I've heard about Midara sounds like it is a game that I would very, very, very much enjoy. But the reason I'm not doing that is because I don't have the capacity at the moment to cover it on the channel. Now, in 6 months' time, maybe when I've cleared some things off my to-do list, maybe I will look at it. But yeah, so my opinion on Midara, having never played it and having never looked at the rulebook, is that I think I'm going to like it because the people that I know have said I'll like it. Arena the Contest, not heard of that one. Scott is asking, has Weather Machine changed today? I did get a message from Vittel Lacerda about 20 minutes before this went live, and I've ignored it. Sorry, Vittel. So yes, it has changed. He sent me a message, and I haven't read it yet. I think that is it for the end of the questions. Right, excellent. I can have a look at the chat. Jonathan is saying Midara is one of your Grail games. Okay. Tom is saying 28 hours of narration. Well, that sounds good. I like that. So Monica is explaining, right, you've seen yourself improving in the past few years reading the rulebooks and learning the game than I was in the many years before. And oh, right, so you have improved yourself in reading rulebooks and learning the game. And have I improved in that? I don't know. I don't think I have. Certainly not in the last 4 or 5 years. I don't think I've learned any more about reading rulebooks. But yeah, I remember when I started the first sorts of Euro games that I started playing back in the very late 90s. I mean, I've been a gamer for a long time, been a gamer my whole life really, and I've read rulebooks before. But it was Euro games in the late 90s that these rulebooks were like, I don't understand what's going on. I don't understand any of this. Because all of the rulebooks that I'd read prior to that were for more thematic games. And you could read them and you could understand them. And the Euro games were place 3 tokens in a row, move this counter up there, take a cube, turn a brown to a green, and you're like, what? What's going on? And then it turns out that these games became my favourite games, you know. I think rulebooks have changed as well. I think rulebooks have evolved over the last 20 years. Some of them have, some of them haven't. Some of the rulebooks you see now are terrible, and some of them are really, really good. But yeah, I don't think my personal learning curve of how good I am at reading rulebooks has changed at all in the last few years. What I have done, and this ties back to what I said earlier on, my intolerance for bad rulebooks, that has increased. So as I mentioned, we were talking about GMT games earlier on. I got the rulebook for Dominant Species. The rulebook for Dominant Species is brilliant, right? You can read it, you can understand it. There's lots of images, there's lots of examples. It's very clear, it's very laid out, it's all there, right? Then the rulebook for Space Corp 2025 to 2300, whatever. Really well laid out, lots of images, lots of examples, really good. Then I went to bed one night a couple of weeks ago with the PDF of the rulebook for Combat Commander Europe. And then I read the first page or the second page, and then I looked at the rest of the PDF and I'm like, this is a nightmare. This is terrible, right? Because it's just walls and walls of text. And the first 2 pages of the Combat Commander Europe were all massive amounts of front loading of information. And I'm like, I can't read this. And what it means is that I'm less inclined to play that, to even go to the effort of learning that game, even though it's a Chad Jensen design and it's supposed to be very good. I don't have the patience that it requires now to struggle with a badly structured or badly written rulebook. There we go. Johannes has got to go back to the hospital. Good luck, Johannes. Stay safe. Jonathan is saying that he thinks rulebooks get easier to understand as you play more games. Yeah, absolutely. If you are relatively new to gaming, every rulebook for you is going to be a learning curve. Whereas when you get to the stage where I'm at, you get a game now and you look through it and you're like, oh yeah, I know that. Oh, worker placement. Yeah, you get that. Yeah. So yeah. Talking of rulebooks, Ross was reading the Bora Bora rulebook and it says before your first play, make sure that you punch out the cardboard tokens. Yes, I don't put that in my rulebooks. Okay, I do not put that in my rulebooks, but some people do, and you're absolutely right. James is asking, can we get a video of the history of game rules, how I started and why? Oh, I could do, the reason why I'm sort of inclined not to do something like that is, and it's a fundamental thing about my videos, and it's why I don't do. There's another type of video that I don't do as well, and it's something strategy. That's it. It's a reason why I don't do strategy videos, is because it keeps changing. This is why I like doing rules videos and playthrough videos, because although sometimes the rules change. Yeah, I like doing things with the final product when things aren't going to change. So people could watch it in a few years' time. And yes, I could do a video of the history of gaming rules and how it's evolved. It would actually take me quite a bit of time and effort. And I don't know whether it would be a good video, because I'd have to go back through years of photos. Yeah, I mean, I could do it. If I do it, I'd do it properly, and I would sit down and I would actually properly script it, and I would actually talk about it, and it would be like a documentary. It would be the history of how gaming rules started, the first video that we filmed downstairs where we did. I mean, I can tell you this now. Most people who are watching this don't know this. In fact, I would put money, unless Dan is watching this, Dan Wiseman from Detective Society, unless you're watching, Dan, I would put money on the fact that everybody else watching this video right now does not know the story that I'm about to tell you. The first ever video that I put up on the Gaming Rules channel was a tutorial video for the beginner's version of Tash Kalar. And it was filmed, well, most of it was digital footage, but the bit that was filmed with me, and if you watch it, oh God, it's awful. I am awful. I look so wooden. It's just terrible. I can't watch it back now because I just look so awful. Not looks wise, but the whole mannerisms, the whole way that I speak, it's just terrible. Anyway, it was filmed downstairs in my dining room with this camera. I think it was this camera. Yeah, this camera I borrowed from the University of Exeter before I then bought it off them. So it was actually this camera, this very camera that you're watching me on now. I didn't have any lighting. So what I did is I got 2 old tripods, because I used to be in a band years ago, and I've still got the tripods in the garage. And I got the fluorescent light from the fish tank, and I took it off the fish tank, dragged it into the dining room, and we put it up on the stand. And that was the lighting that I used for the very first video. And in fact, not the very first video, we used that for months. Yeah, for many, many months before we said, this is silly. Why don't we just spend, what was it, like 60 quid and bought 2 box lights or something like that? So anyway, there you go. Yeah, if you did know that story and you are watching this live, let me know, because I'm pretty sure nobody would know. Right, have we got any other questions in the chat? Any other questions that I've missed? No. Right, we'll mention the contest again. So yeah, if you are watching this and you haven't yet entered the contest, click on the link in the chat right now that Vicky is going to put in there. All you need to do is you need to go on there, put your name, put the word Viking, because this isn't a Viking apparently, but put the word Viking. And if you are a patron supporter, please put that you're a patron supporter there. I will do the draw on Sunday, and one of you is going to win £25 of games vouchers from GamesLaw. Thank you very much to GamesLaw for giving me £25 each month to give away. That's how GamesLaw support the channel. GamesLaw is the UK's largest specialist games retailer at gameslaw.com. And yeah, and the other contest, while we're talking about contests, the monthly giveaway lasts for another 4 days. So if I'm giving away a copy of Stroganoff to one of my patron supporters who is a producer level or higher. If you have considered supporting the channel in the past and you haven't ever got round to it, but you want to be in with a chance of winning a copy of Stroganoff, then please consider supporting me on Patreon. The link is down in the bottom right, patreon.com/gaming rules. And yeah, if you are a producer level or higher, you are automatically entered into that. So just as a reminder, 2 contests, or 1 contest, 1 giveaway. The contest which we're running, which the link to is in the form, you don't have to be a patron supporter, but if you are, you get an extra ticket. That runs out on Sunday, and you'll win £25 worth of games vouchers. The other giveaway is my normal monthly giveaway, and that runs out at the end of the month. And to enter that, you just need to be a patron supporter. You don't need to click on any links. You don't need to go to any forms or anything like that. Hopefully, that's that. There's one question. This is from Ahmad. Recently, he bought Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth. From my own experience, what's the best way to learn it right, fast, and enjoy the gameplay? The best way, I think, to learn Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth is don't play 2 characters yourself unless you are, so if you don't have anybody else to play with, you're going to have to do that. But try and play with another person. And yeah, just sit down and just the game. If I'm right in thinking, just bear with us a minute, I've got it over here. I think it has one of the, because it's Fantasy Flight Games. So, oh, you could paint these. There you go. Oh, the rule books are at the bottom. Right, okay. I think it has a learn to play guide. So Fantasy Flight Games are famous for their 2 rulebook approach, where one of their rulebooks is a learn to play the game, and then the other rulebook is the rules reference. And I'm pretty sure this game has that. So that is the best way to learn. Literally, just get the game out and follow through the rulebook, which will take you through your first game. You will have to occasionally look at the rules reference for things that crop up during the game, but that's the best way of doing it. Right, we're all done. It is 18:37, so we've been going for an hour and 40. It hasn't felt like an hour and 40. No, hasn't felt like an hour and 40 at all. Thank you very much for watching. And as I mentioned at the start, thank you very much to all of my Patreon supporters for making this possible. If you are a Patreon supporter of mine, you will be in for a treat later on tonight. I am doing another live playthrough tonight, but this is for Patreon supporters only, because me and a friend of mine are going to be playing through the Middle-earth collectible card game, but we're going to be playing a more complex version of the one we played the other day. And the reason I'm doing it privately is I don't feel comfortable doing it in public. So I'm doing a private stream tonight where me and Paul Snuggs are going to be playing through the Middle-earth card game tonight. This is all in preparation for a video which will hopefully be public on the channel at some point in the future. But we're doing it privately tonight. So yeah, that is that. Elle's here, Peter's here, everybody's here. And yes, please like the video. And if you're, again, as mentioned earlier on, if you're one of those people who is watching this not live, then please give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment. Just let me know if you enjoyed it, and please spread the word. That's everything. Thank you very much to Vicky for facilitating, helping, whatever it is that you do, whatever word it is you do. Right, we're going to go for dinner now, and then I'll be back later on with the Middle-earth stream for Patreon supporters. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Have a good day. Gaming Rules is proudly sponsored by Game Toppers, upgrading your gaming experience. Visit GameToppersLLC.com.